My name is Donna Fortune, and today I'm going to read you a book about Jane Goodall. The title of the book is I Am Jane Goodall, written by Brad Meltzer and illustrated by Christopher Eliopoulos. I love science, technology, and things that move. I like to take things apart and see how they work. I'm curious and enjoy learning about the world, its people, and its animals. I chose this book because, like so many other people, I think Jane Goodall was an extraordinary person. Not only that, but she was an ordinary person, like you and me, who changed the world. Let's read the story about Jane Goodall and see what made her an ordinary person who changed the world. When she was little, Jane Goodall loved animals, all of them. From dogs to the worms in her garden to her favorite stuffed toy. Jubilee was her favorite stuffed toy's name, the chimpanzee. Everyone wondered why she didn't have a teddy bear, but we'll get to that later. And when she grew up, she wanted to learn everything she could about the natural world. So Jane traveled to Africa and set up a new home in the jungle, becoming one of the first people to study chimpanzees in the wild and to discover a way to gain their trust. Today, she's one of the world's most important scientists, environmentalists, and champions of animal rights. I am Jane Goodall. On my first birthday, my father bought me a cuddly toy chimpanzee named Jubilee. Jubilee, meet Jane. I loved Jubilee. I mean it, loved. I used to carry Jubilee with me everywhere. As I got older, when I'd line up all my toys and play teacher, Jubilee was the one who had his own chair. Okay, class. Now, who knows what rabbits like to eat? Yes, Jubilee. Oh, correct as always. I didn't just love my toy chimpanzee, though. I loved all animals, even the earthworms I found in the garden. My mom said, "Did you bring the earthworms inside the house?" "Oh, don't worry, Mom. They're safe as can be, right under my pillow." My mom told me the worms would be safer in the garden, so we took them outside and buried them back in their home. At 5 years old, I was curious to learn how chickens lay eggs. So I crawled into my grandmother's hen house to watch. At first, the hens were scared of me. Then I decided to crouch in the corner. If I had moved, the hens wouldn't run away. I was patient, though. Finally, after all the hours of waiting, I saw what I was looking for. The hen gave a little wiggle, and plop, there was an egg. "Where were you?" my mom said. "You've been missing for so long, we sent out a search party." "You'll never believe where eggs come from," she said. It was my first research project. In addition to animals, I also loved nature. I named the chestnut tree Nookie and the beech tree Beech. Beech was my favorite. Thank you, Beech, for letting me read up here. Oh, that was another thing. I loved reading. Back then, my family didn't have a lot of money. To get books, we went to the library. When I was 7 years old, I got a book that would change my life. It was called The Story of Dr. Dolittle. I read it once, then read it again, and then read it a third time before it had to go back to the library. It was about a man who could talk to animals. In the book, there's a parrot who says that if you want to learn how animals talk, you need the power of observation. But what I remember most is the part where Dr. Dolittle and his animal friends are being chased and they come to a cliff. How are we going to get across? Right there, the monkeys joined hands and feet. They became the bridge. Isn't that beautiful? We can accomplish anything by working together. A bridge. Quick, make a bridge, the monkeys said. After reading that book, I vowed that I would go to Africa and live among the animals. By the time I was 12, I had my own nature group, the Alligator Club. My friends and I raised money to help old horses. We took nature walks and wrote down what we saw, or at least I did. And if you wanted to have a high rank in the club, you have to be able to recognize 10 dogs, 10 birds, 10 trees, and 5 butterflies or moths. How about I go first? Something tells me she's going to get them perfectly. Each of us had our own animal name. Jane was the Red Admiral, named after a beautiful butterfly. Was I the best student? Not really. On school days, it was hard for me to wake up. I didn't like being indoors, but if we were outside or there were animals around, that's when I'd get excited. Guess how many pets I had? There was a lizard with no legs named Ivor, guinea pigs named Gandhi and Jimmy, racing snails with numbers painted on them, Pickles the cat, Hamlet the hamster, and Peter the canary. And that didn't include the dogs I looked after, like my favorite Rusty, who liked wearing pajamas. Woof! That means he likes pajamas. I wanted a job where I could learn more about animals. But back then, if you were a girl, people didn't think you could become a scientist. They expected girls to become nurses, secretaries, or teachers. I wanted to go to Africa. I wanted to study animals. Luckily, my mom always told me, if you really want something, work hard for it. If you don't give up, you'll find a way. I never got that. Soon I had my chance. One of my school friends invited me to visit her family in Kenya. To pay for the trip, I worked as a waitress and hid my money under the carpet. One day, I closed the curtains, counted it all, and as she was working, she'd say, "That's right, in Africa. I've got enough. I'm going to Africa." The trip took 21 days by boat. Wow, that's a long time. That's more than half a month. I was 23 years old. It all seemed like a dream until I saw a giraffe who stared directly at me. It had dark eyes, long lashes, a black tongue, and was chewing acacia thorns. I knew my dream was coming alive. Finally, I was in the Africa of Dr. Dolittle. 2 months later, my life changed again. Someone told me, if you're interested in animals, you must meet Dr. Louis Leakey. "Nice to meet you," he said. "I'm Jane Goodall. I hear you like animals. You have no idea." Dr. Leakey was an anthropologist, which means he studied how humans live, and also a paleontologist, which means he studied fossils and bones. At first, he hired me as a secretary, but he was quickly impressed with what I knew about animals, including his own pets. Eventually, Dr. Leakey told me about a new job studying chimpanzees up close. He said going into the forest would be hard. It would be dangerous. But if we could find out how chimps live today, we'd learn more about how our own prehistoric ancestors used to live. I have no college degree, no training, no expertise, but I want that job. Jane? "I've been waiting for you to say that," Dr. Leakey said. For a year, I read everything I could about chimpanzees. They're always observed in a lab. No one has studied them in the jungle, where they actually live. I was told that women couldn't be alone in the forest. They said I needed a guide plus a companion. My mom offered to come. I was ready. My mom said, "I knew you wouldn't give up." I'll never forget that day, July 16, 1960, the day I first set foot in what was today called Gombe National Park in Tanzania, Africa. At 26 years old, I had finally made it to the home of chimpanzees. It was a place that would change my life. During one of my first explorations, we saw 2 chimpanzees eating in a tall tree. They noticed us and they ran away. "They're scared of us," I said. The next day, we didn't see any chimps. There were no chimps the day after that either. For months, I tried to get close, but they kept running away. Then I started going alone, just me. I'd go to a high area called the Peak and look down with my binoculars. This was my secret. Be patient, learn about how they lived, slowly move closer and closer. In time, I saw that chimpanzees would hang out in groups of 6 or fewer. The female chimps would be with the children. The male chimps would be with one another. These weren't mindless animals. This was a community. Still, it took nearly a year before I could get within 100 yards of the chimpanzees. One day, I came back to camp and found out. One of the male chimpanzees took our food, including your bananas. "Fantastic! That means they're not scared of me now. I bet he'll be back tomorrow." The next day I waited and waited. There were no chimpanzees in sight. Then, at 4 p.m., I heard a rustling noise by my tent. It was the large male chimpanzee with a thick beard. David Graybeard, I named him. That was the name I gave him. Back then, people told me there was a certain way to study animals, that I shouldn't give the chimpanzees names. They said animals were supposed to have numbers, not names. Why? They thought animals didn't have personalities or emotions. They thought that if we gave them names, we'd start pretending they were like us. But that's what no one realized. They were like us. That day, David Graybeard took my nuts and my bananas. A month later, he took one from my hand. Even later out in the forest, he slowly approached me and checked to see if I had a banana in my pocket. It was one of my proudest moments, having the other chimpanzees now understand that I wasn't a threat. I was their friend, and they were mine. Over time, by seeing the chimpanzees as individuals, I could truly understand them. "Who wants another banana?" David was calm, though he liked getting what he wanted. "It's okay, pal. Calm down." Goliath was easily excited. William was shy. Old Flo was a strong mother, always bringing her daughter and her son. As I watched, I learned one of the coolest things of all. One day, I saw David Graybeard stripping leaves from a twig, then sticking the twig into a termite mound. He wasn't just using the twig as a tool, he had made the tool. Before that, scientists thought only humans could make tools. There was no doubt now that these animals were intelligent. Every night, I'd write in my journal about what I observed. And every day, I saw the chimpanzees doing the same things we do. Holding hands, kissing, tickling, even patting backs to reassure each other. The more I observed, the more I learned. Soon, I had so much information, I needed a tape recorder. Then I needed an assistant to help observe all the other chimpanzee families in the forest. 6 years later, what started with a notepad and binoculars became a full research center. Now I was the one in charge. Isn't it wonderful? Look what we can build together. Today, thanks to our work in Tanzania, the whole world knows that animals have their own personalities and complex relationships. In my life, people told me there was a certain way to do things, a certain way to study animals, a certain way that girls should behave. They told me to follow the rules. Instead, I followed my gut. In your life, it will be easy to see how others are different from you. But there's so much more to gain if you instead see how alike we all are. All of us, all living things, share so much. We have so many things in common. When we realize that and look out for each other. That's the most beautiful way to live together. Today, Dr. Goodall's work has grown, reminding people everywhere that we all share this earth every day. When we protect the planet, we protect each other. Even now, along with the Jane Goodall Institute, she's working to save endangered species, including her beloved chimpanzees, while also taking care of our environment. With more than 150,000 groups of young people in the 130-plus countries, the Roots and Shoots Network connecting youth of all ages who share a desire to create a better world. Give them a call. You can be an experiment too. Want to work with animals one day? Watch your favorite animals and see what they do. Make notes, read books about them. They're so much like us. I am Jane Goodall, and I see so much that we have in common. Watch, observe, be patient. It'll teach you this. We don't own this earth, we share it. Listen to the feelings in your heart. We are responsible for the animals around us. We must take care of them. When one of us is in trouble, be it human, creature, or nature itself, we must reach out and help. When we do, we build a bridge that will carry all of us. You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. That's a quote by Jane Goodall. That's a pretty good quote. So today, even today, Jane Goodall is 88 years old, and she still, because of COVID, she can't get out anymore, but she still holds multiple Zoom meetings every day. She used to travel 300 days out of 365 days a year. And even on special holidays, she holds multiple Zoom meetings. And she believes that she can actually reach more people than ever before because she's not getting on a plane to go to a particular country. So what a great book about an extraordinary person, Jane Goodall. It's been my pleasure to share this book about Jane Goodall with you today. I hope to see you all again on Lunenburg Storytime. Thanks so much for watching.
Hi, my name is John Fortune, and today I'm going to read you a book about a man you may have never seen, but you know him. You might be saying, wait a minute, I've never seen him, but I know him? Let me ask you a different question. Have you ever heard of Kermit the Frog? Or Miss Piggy? How about the Muppets 3D Theater? Or Sesame Street? These are all creations of a man named Jim Hensen, an American puppeteer whose creations have made a lasting impact on children and adults around the world. This book is from a series called Ordinary People Who Changed the World, and its title is I Am Jim Hensen, written by Brad Meltzer and illustrated by Christopher Iliopoulos. Let's read the book and learn more about Jim's life. I am Jim Hensen. Oh, good, you're here. What's the fun of a story if you don't have anyone to share it with? Growing up in Mississippi, I used to love to watch birds. I even made my own book, where I'd list each bird I saw and add my own drawings. That bird up there is my favorite, the blackbird. Blackbirds have fun personalities, and I also love their other name, the grackle. Don't you just love funny names like that? My whole life, I loved kooky words. Want to know what else I loved? Laughing. As a kid, this was one of my favorite family jokes. My mom used to play it on my brother and me. Say when. Gee, that's enough. Mom, that's enough. Mom! You didn't say when. At 8 years old, I'd come here to the movie theater. Every Saturday, this was my favorite place. For 15 cents, I could get a bag of popcorn and spend the whole day watching cartoons, newsreels, action movies, and comedies. My favorites were the ones with wild clothing and far-off location, like the Old West or foreign countries. The rest of the week, my friends and I would recreate what we saw in the movies, using homemade props and costumes. Look, the great snake charmer! I used a bedsheet as a turban and a garden hose as a snake. Look, a star tattoo! Cork cut like a star when you charred it black. That star tattoo was the bad guy we had in the movies. With a little imagination, we'd start pretending. There was no limit what we could create. My grandparents played a big role in my life as well. I got my middle name, Maury, from my grandmother, who loved to laugh too. But he never laughed at anyone, never made fun of people. As for my grandmother, she was my best audience. When she came over for a visit, we used to paint, glue, and crayons to make the most amazing art projects. She was the one who encouraged me to draw things that made me happy. Monsters with giant mouths and birds with big eyes. Ta-da! Oh, I adore it, Jimmy. Now tell me a story about each creature. Those days with my grandmother changed my life. She encouraged me to tell stories. She supported my love of reading, and she was amazing with a needle and thread. She could sew anything. What is that? It's a coat made out of an army blanket. Like it? Gee, I really do. But the most important thing she taught me was that my imagination. I could do anything. I could be anything, including a performer. One night during a skit at Cub Scouts, I had one of my friends stand in front of everyone with his hands behind his back. Then I put my own hands in and, what's so funny? I'm being serious here. I could still hear the crowd laughing. I always loved a good performance. Growing up, I listened to shows on the radio like The Green Hornet, The Shadow, and one of my favorite comedians, a ventriloquist named Edgar Bergen. Even though Edgar Bergen did the voices, I never thought Charlie McCarthy or his other characters were puppets. They were human to me. His work was magic. Magic in the real sense. It seemed impossible. That's what magic is. It creates wonder. It creates dreams that inspire. I'd seen their pictures in the newspaper, but here, with each show, an ordinary object came to life. Once upon a time, long, long ago, funny, nothing ever happens nowadays. Something happened when Edgar spoke through Charlie. The puppeteer wasn't just sharing jokes. He was sharing the best parts of himself, and people were listening. When I was 13, a new technology changed my life. At a friend's house, I saw an invention called television. You have a television? We just got it. Isn't it cool? Dad, can we get a TV? Can we get a TV? Can we get a TV? Can you please stop? Sure. Now can we get a TV? I wouldn't give up. Soon my parents did give up. On TV, I found comedians like Sid Caesar, Milton Berle, and Jack Benny. One of my favorites was Ernie Kovacs, who tilted the set and camera so that everything slid sideways. I especially loved the variety shows, which had a big cast that would sing and dance and do comedy. And there was Kukla, Fran, and Ollie, a show where puppets made jokes and sang with a human co-star. The way they talked to each other, it was like those puppets were alive. Right away, I knew one thing. I wanted to work in television. At 16 years old, I went looking for a job at all the local TV stations. WTTG, sorry kid. WMAL, sorry kid. WTOP, sorry kid. There has to be another place that'll hire me. They all said no. But like the time I begged my dad for a TV, I never gave up. Soon after, a local station announced it was looking for a puppeteer. I'd never used a puppet before, but my whole life I loved creating. That was the job I wanted. So, how'd I get it? The same way you get any dream. hard work. I went to my high school library, took out books on puppetry, built a few puppets, and went back to the station. Now, I'm a puppeteer. Will you hire me? They gave me a chance. That was all I needed. Was my first show a success? Nope. It was canceled. But did I give up? Not a chance. My partner and I continued creating, continued working hard, and eventually we got our own 5 minutes before The Tonight Show. Along the way, we came up with a name for our characters. We called them Muppets, playing around with the word puppet. But really, it was just a fun word, like grackle. By the way, this is Jane. She worked on the shows with me. We're going to get married one day. Wait, what? We're going to get married? Don't ruin the ending. Our show was called Sam and Friends. We needed a new puppet, and the answer was right in plain sight. I was 18 years old and found my mother's old wool coat. I cut it apart and sewed a new body. My grandmother taught me that one. I gave it a pointed face. I glued on halves of ping pong balls for eyes, and then I became the one who performed its voice. Yes, he was turquoise back then. He wasn't even a frog, but he did have a name, Kermit. With each show, I kept inventing new characters, dreaming up new ways to make people laugh. On TV, unlike a puppet stage, there were no walls, so we could film our Muppets from far away, or bring them in really close for an easy laugh. And while old-fashioned puppets had frozen expressions, our Muppets' faces could move. We could do faces that were funny, or angry, or even sad. To make our Muppets seem even more real, we crossed their eyes slightly. This gave them focus. Now they started to come alive. But do you want to know my real secret? Practice. We would practice in a mirror over and over until it was just right. The only way people would feel a sense of wonder was if they could give each character a life of its own. Let's do it again, fellas. This is Jerry Jewell, who writes for the Muppets. Don Shalin, who helps build the Muppets, and Frank Oz, who will be the voice and performer of Grover and even Yoda. Who's Yoda? Don't ruin the ending. We did commercials and performed on other shows, but like so much of life, it was just training for our next adventure. 2 TV producers named Joan Gans Cooney and John Stone were about to give me the opportunity of a lifetime. We want to create a show that will change the lives of children, especially those whose families don't have a lot of opportunities. We want a show that can help them learn to read and count. It can be funny, right? They even had a name for it. Sesame Street. Since kids love Muppets, we built Muppets who could interact directly with the kids. We began with a big yellow bird who was a child himself. That's me, I'm Big Bird. Then we added a grouchy green monster named, they know who he is. On November 10th, 1969, the first episode aired. It was a smash hit. Every episode, Sesame taught the ABCs. C is for cookie. And the 1, 2, 3s. That's 4 beautiful ah-ha-ha bats. It was one of the first shows to have kids of different races playing and learning together. It taught kids how to share, how to take turns, and how to get along. Certainly with all its zany characters, it made us laugh. But at its best, with songwriters like Joe Raposo, Sesame Street made us think, especially about what kind of people we wanted to be. Green's the color of spring, and green can be cool and friendly like, and green can be big like an ocean, or important like a mountain, or tall like a tree. Through song, the whole world heard that green and all of us can be anything. It's beautiful to see a world like that. In fact, Kermit's humor never came from making fun of people. It came from bringing us all together. By focusing on the good in everyone, my own sense of wonder took over and my dream of entertaining others came true. The Muppets and I went on to new adventures, and got to bring along some favorite old friends. It's The Muppet Show with our very favorite guest star, Mr. Edgar Bergen. Every week, The Muppet Show, frogs, pigs, bears, and creatures of all kinds reminded the world that despite all the chaos, thank you, and thank you. Oh boy, what a crowd. I did not approve of belly dances. Why can't they dance on the floor like everyone else? Waka waka. Good grief, the comedian's a bear. Sorry about that, folks. As I was saying, on The Muppet Show and on Sesame Street, I wanted our audience to know that despite all the chaos and despite all of our differences, there is nothing more fun than being together. From there, I never stopped creating and dreaming. In fact, the more we performed, the more fun we had, and the more dreams grew, bringing millions of people together. What could possibly be more magical than that? Life's like a movie. Write your own ending. Keep believing, keep pretending. We've done just what we set out to do. Thanks to the lovers, the dreamers, and you. In my life, I love to create. But the secret behind my best creations wasn't a strong hand or a catchy song or even a funny voice. It was a simple idea. There's good in all of us. Sure, we're all different. Some of us have beards or no hair or blue fur or green flippers. But goodness lives within each of us. That's an idea that should never get old. Believe in the good of the world. Create something new. Share what you love. And find others who believe in those favorite things you dream about together. Today, Sesame Street is watched by millions of kids in more than 150 countries around the world, from Brooklyn to Bangladesh. At its peak, The Muppet Show was watched by over 235 million people every week. Did you know he even started the Jim Hensen Foundation to promote and develop the art of poetry? Not to ruin the ending, but is this the ending? I think that's the secret. As long as there are new dreamers, new people who love to entertain and pretend, this is a story that never ends. Guess what? I want to create cool things too, just like you. Gee, thank you so much. Don't let anything stop you. It starts when we're kids. That's when we learn of the best things in life. Laughing, sharing, imagining, dreaming, creating. Never stop doing them, and never stop being kind. There's nothing wrong with being a do-gooder. I am Jim Hensen, and I will keep believing and keep pretending. Aren't you glad Jim Henson got to share his dream with all of us? I still go to the Muppets 3D Theater when we're at Disney World. It's one of my favorites. What are your dreams? Is it to be on TV or to go to the moon in a rocket ship? Whatever your dreams are, Jim shares with us his secret for success. Keep working really hard and never give up. I'm John Fortune, and I want to thank you for watching Lunenburg Storytime. See you next time.
Hello, friends. My name is Jane Rabbit, and I have a couple of stories to read to you. The first one is, the author is Jean Reagan, and it's illustrated by Lee Wildish. And the name of the story is, I should have said that, How to Babysit a Grandpa. Babysitting a grandpa is fun if you know how. Within the pages of this book, you will find essential tips for being a good grandpa sitter, including how to play with a grandpa, things to do on a walk, snacks grandpas like to eat. So the next time your grandpa rings the doorbell, you'll know exactly what to do. Be sure to have the crayons, shark toys, and ketchup ready. Babysitting a grandpa is fun if you know how. When your grandpa rings the doorbell, what should you do? Hide. You might wiggle and want to giggle, but don't yell grandpa. Not yet. Shh. How to stay quiet. Pretend you're a shark waiting for lunch. Act like a pirate spy. Be as still as a lion statue. As soon as your grandpa says, "I give up," pop out and shout, "Here I am." When your mom and dad leave, put your grandpa's hand or pat your grandpa's hand and say, "Don't worry, they always come back." Then, right away, ask him if he's hungry. Snacks for Grandpa. Ice cream topped with cookies. Olives served on fingertips. Anything dipped in ketchup. Cookies topped with ice cream. After snacks, it's time to take your grandpa for a walk. When it's cold, bundle up. When it's sunny, sunscreen up, especially the top of his head. Because remember, a lot of grandpas don't have much hair. Remember to grab his hand when you cross the street and remind him to look both ways. What to do on a walk? Number 1, step over sidewalk cracks. 2, look for lizards, cool rocks, and dandelion puffs. And number 3, if there's a puddle or a sprinkler, show him what to do. And it looks like he's doing some stomping in the puddle. When you're back at home, have him shut his eyes while you get ready, and then how to entertain a grandpa. Number 1, somersault across the room. Number 2, put on a scary play. Number 3, show off your muscles. You may want to have some extra tricks. Grandpas always clap for more. Pretty soon he'll want to join the fun, so play with your grandpa too. How to play with a grandpa. March with your drum, give him a kazoo. And watch out for sharks in the water. Don't let your feet touch the floor. And build a cave and make sure you can both fit. When your grandpa says nap time, it's time for his nap. The best way to put him to sleep is to have him read a long book over and over and over, and zzz, he falls asleep, as does the cat. Even if you're sleepy, too, babysitters have to stay awake. While he naps, draw a picture for his fridge. What to draw for a grandpa? Number 1, a pirate shark battle. Number 2, your favorite dinosaur. And number 3, you and your grandpa splashing in a puddle. Then, wake up your grandpa. You might want to try lifting him with all your muscles, tickling his nose and toes, or singing on top of Old Smoky softly, then louder and louder. And he finally wakes up. Now ask, will Mom and Dad be home soon? Your grandpa will look at the clock and say, yikes, soon, very soon. Good babysitters can't leave messes, so turn on some bouncy music and get to work. When you hear your mom and dad, grab your grandpa's hand and pull him behind the couch. Show him how to be quiet. Check how to stay quiet and whisper, see, Grandpa, they always come back. Now comes the hardest part, goodbye time. How to say goodbye to a grandpa. Surprise him with the picture. Give him a hug and a kiss, a hug and a kiss, a hug and a kiss. And ask, when can I babysit you again? The end. Hi friends, my name is Jane Rabbit, and I'm here to share a couple stories with you. The book I'm going to read this time is Small Walt and Mow the Toe. Story by Elizabeth Verdick and pictures by Mark Rosenthal. Small Walt and Mow the Toe. A bitter blizzard, a snowbound town. Get ready, plows. One by one, engines rumble awake. 2 by 2, headlights wink on. There's Small Walt with a big load of ice-melting salt. His driver Gus at the wheel. Walt's engine surges. Where Gus and Walt, we plow and we salt. We clear the snow so the cars can go. Plow, push the drifts. Spreader, scatter salt. Wipers, swish the slush. Tires, turn that snow to mush. Vroom, vroom, vroom. On a lonely 2-lane road, slick with ice, Walt slows. A little car slips and slides. Walt's lights shine. Danger, danger. Gus grips the wheel tightly. That driver needs to get home. And he's having a problem. Whoa, the car pitches into a ditch. Frump. Walt stops. Gus says the ditch is deep. So is the snow. Oh no, Walt's engine groans. Gus gets his gloves. Grrr, goes Walt. Stay here. Gus, stay here. Walt's plow swings up. His plow drops down. We've traveled far. Let's scoop that car. Now, says Gus. Plows only scoop snow. He hops out and disappears into the ditch. And the man in the car is yelling, help, help. And the snow is very deep. Walt waits and waits. My plow is tough, but it's not enough. Blinding snow blocks Walt's view. What to do, what to do? Then a sound in the distance, brum, 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 a tow truck. Gus must have made the call. Walt watches his wiper swish, swishing. The truck pulls up, its engine hums hello. I'm Mow the Toe. A lady in a bright blue coat steps out. We can give you a hand, she says. In howling wind and falling snow, Gus leads a hand and a shoulder. Brr, so cold. The wild wind howls. The snow falls faster. Gus and the car's driver climb into Walt's cab to warm up. Walt's heater blasts. Whoosh! Now, Gus says, let's see what Sue can do. Walt's engine hitches. Who? The lady in blue. Sue hops into the tow truck. Mow looks ready to roll. All Walt can do is wait. Uh-oh, the snowdrifts are too high. The ice is too slick. Mo's tires can't get a good grip. Slip. Whoa, grumbles Mo. We can't go. Walt to the rescue. His engine revs. Vroom, vroom, here we come. We're Gus and Walt. We plow and we salt. Walt's plow pushes away the snow. Scoop, scoop. His spreader scatters salt. Switch, twist, switch, twist. Clear that muck, or truck gets stuck. Soon the snow is piled high. Walt's engine heaves a huge sigh. You cleared the snow, now we can tow. Here we go. Beep, beep, beep. Mo and Sue back up with a shrill beep, beep, beep. Sue works the boom and hook. Clang a clank, clunk a clank. Walt's lights shine brighter. His engine urges Mo to go, go, go. When we need a tow, we call on Mo. We can depend on our new friend. Mo brum brums and pulls, lugs and hauls. Slowly, slowly the car crawls up the ditch. Wumpa-thumpa, bumpa, bump. Thanks to you all, I'll get home. Rug-a-room goes Walt, broom hum goes Mo. Nose to nose, the two trucks make a ruckus. Rug-a-brum brum, hum-a-room. Let's get back on the road again, Snow Fighter, says Gus as he rolls down the window and waves goodbye. The snow whirls and flies. Walt's engine booms. Gus, Walt, Mo, and Sue. What a crew, what a crew. Thank you.